You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers, about hikers, for everybody.
Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis. Join Steve and his guests every week as he staggers from Georgia to Maine.
Welcome back to the Mighty Blue podcast and days 7, 8 and 9 of my adventure on the Appalachian Trail this year. Only 3 days, and they started on Sunday, then there was Monday, and there was Tuesday, and we've had just a delightful time. You'll hear about it in a moment, but I think it's probably the best trail magic I've ever had in my life. And I knew it was coming, or something like it was coming, but the extent of it has been mind-blowing, really. I'm still almost in awe at how we've been treated. But obviously we're going to hear about that in a moment. So let's get started with day number 7, which is last Sunday. Day 7, Low Gap Shelter to Unicoi Gap, a 9.7 mile day. We had a plan. We were trying to get to Unicoi Gap, where Amanda Aguillard, a listener to the show, was going to pick me up, let me stay at her home overnight and cook me some gumbo. Who on earth is going to turn that down? Certainly not me. And the first few miles were surprisingly easy. It must have been, I think, an old forest road, but there were gentle inclines and gentle declines. And I thought, this is a piece of cake, which of course is a fatal thing to say, because I knew that there would be problems later on. Most of the time we were up at about 3,300 feet and stayed around there, just easing up to 3,500 feet and then down a little bit more, then up a little bit more. And then this last push took us to the top of Blue Mountain at just over 4,000 feet, I think it was, before dropping down to Unicoi Gap about 1,100 feet below. So in terms of hiking, it hadn't been a difficult day, and I think it was one of the easier days for me physically, certainly. And down the bottom there was some trail magic, and people, I don't even know who the group was because I was kind of moving quite quickly by then. Amanda was picking me up at about 4:30, I think it was, and I was surprised by one of our previous guests of the show, Michelle Michaud. She turned up to give me some trail magic, and a bit like Chrissy Schubert and Addie the previous day, because I didn't know they were coming, I couldn't hang around. I felt embarrassed about it, really. It was lovely that Amanda was taking us, but I'd made that arrangement already. So please, I know people really want help, but I'm definitely not turning down any help at all. But please let me know if you're going to be around, or roughly when you're going to be around, and I can make arrangements so we can meet each other and spend some time. Anyway, Amanda turned up, and so I kind of had to leave Michelle behind. She kindly offered lifts to Dan, the bloke I've been hiking around for a while, an older guy actually, younger than me, but still older, and 2 youngsters. We went to Ingalls in Hiawassee, which is the normal dropping off point for people to resupply. And Amanda sort of whispered to me, should I offer Dan a room for the night? And I said, yeah, he's fine, he's a good guy. So she offered him a room, and Dan could not believe it. He was beside himself. He was so excited that he was getting this trail magic from this lovely woman. So Dan needed some frog togs, and no problem to Amanda. She drove us out to Walmart about, 15, 20 minutes away. And we were looking for frog togs and other bits of gear. Of course, the gear I wanted was biscuits and gravy. So I got some biscuits and gravy. She took us back to her place, and it's got an entire downstairs turned over to a guest suite. Dan kept muttering. He couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe how lucky he was. He'd only expected perhaps a lift into town, or hoped for a lift into town. Then he was staying the night. I've got a really nice room to myself. Dan had a room to himself, and yeah, it was pretty cool. And then of course we had gumbo. She'd cooked gumbo, warmed it up for us, and we just sat and chatted with Amanda over a bit of wine on a veranda. Now this, let me tell you everybody, this is traumatic. And it got dark and Amanda retires quite early, and so we all went to bed, and Dan was still muttering. It was a great day, really enjoyed it, and it was a special day for me. I was very touched by how open she was and chatty she was, and just wanted to make sure we were okay. And it was a very special feeling, I've got to tell you. If you're heading out on a long hike this year, which I am, I've got something I think you're going to love. It's called Polar Steps. It's a travel tracking app that's going to become a favourite with hikers. You set your start date, let it run quietly in the background, and it maps your entire journey automatically, all on your own beautiful spinning 3D globe. And don't worry, the tracking feature uses about 4% of your battery on a single charge, so it's not going to kill your phone when you're out there. You can add photos and short journal entries as you go, so your map shows you where you were and your words remind you of what that day actually felt like. There's a light social layer too. Family and friends can follow along, or you can keep it completely private. As every hiker says, hike your own hike. And when you're done, you can relive the whole thing in the app, or turn it into a stunning coffee table book with your route, stats, photos and stories. And did I tell you that it's entirely free to download and use? The only time you'll be paying anything is if you decide to turn your trip into a book. That's Polar Steps. Track it now, treasure it forever. Day 8, Unicoi Gap to Tray Mountain Shelter, just 5.7 miles. Our plan was really to do about 16 or 17 miles from Unicoi Gap back to Dix Creek Gap, and then I was going to come back to Amanda's. So we had a late start, and I'll tell you why we did that in a minute. But the idea was so that we could have a longer day on the following day, which would have been the Tuesday. So this was just a short 5.7 mile day, although I've got to tell you, this was not an easy day at all. We had a very leisurely breakfast, which Amanda made very kindly again. And we left the house about 5 to 10 in the morning because the outfitter we wanted to go to for Dan wasn't open till 10, which is a bit of a nuisance, but you know, we were relaxed. We knew we weren't going very far. So we headed to the outfitters, and Dan needed this warm jacket. Once he was happy, we headed back to Unicoi Gap. And the plan was, as I say, over the 2 days to reach Dix Creek Gap and stay with Amanda again. Since we left fairly late, we didn't really get on trail until, I don't know, might have been 11:15 a.m. And I didn't really think that the mileage was going to be an issue at all. Only 5.7 miles, that's not a problem at all. But it was 2 climbs of over 1,000 feet that certainly tested me. And I mean, reassuringly for me, I made both of them. I mean, I've always got this saying, you know, there's never been a mountain I couldn't get over, and that still, so far on this trip, holds true. I've got over everything that I've faced. There are times halfway up it where I think I'm never going to get to the top, and yet you still keep moving and moving and moving. But what I actually don't, in many ways, do that. What I do, I stop very often. I stop as much as every 30, 40 yards. I kind of rest on my poles to take a bit of, I don't know, weight off my feet, and it seems to, I don't know, makes it easier for me to restart hiking. And I do this all the way up a mountain. I think I need those stops to kind of regain control of my legs in many ways. So since we had all day, I took all day. And I was looking forward to going to Tray Mountain. The last time I went there, and actually I'm not sure it was the last time, I think it was the first time I went there, there was an ice storm up there. and there was frost on my tent. It was freezing cold. Yeah, it was the first time I went actually. And the second time it was obscenely rainy. It was so rainy, I couldn't believe it. So, but I was looking forward to being there because I like the setup of the camp. There's the camp, you approach it about 0.2 mile off the trail, and there are lots of tents set up already on that approach. So I thought, oh my gosh, I won't get a decent spot. Then you get to the shelter itself, and beyond the shelter, there's some more tent sites, and people told me they were full up. And further down was a really good box spring for water, which was terrific. So I knew I liked the place. I knew I wanted to really, really, enjoy the place. And luckily enough for me, I found a pretty good spot to put my tent up. And I don't know, it was one of those evenings. I just felt just so right with everything. I felt very comfortable that I knew what I was doing now. I'd got, even though it was only a short distance, and I know that doesn't really prove anything, but it's those long climbs of over 1,000 feet each time that I was able to do, and I felt really good. So I set my chair up, of course, by a tree, and started chatting with a couple of guys about 30 feet away from me, Ken and another fella. I can't remember his name. I feel bad about that. But Ken was a very charismatic bloke, very smart, ex-military, very articulate as well. And I knew straight away I really wanted to interview him. Now, I didn't want to offend the other guy, but Ken was the one I was talking to mostly. So I said, would you mind interviewing for me? And he said he would. And he came over and he sat on the ground as we chatted. And he was a kind of loose, relaxed person to talk to. And after that, his buddy and another young man, Luke, gathered round, and in the fading light, we kind of really enjoyed each other's company. And then Luke told us that he played violin, had been playing violin all his life. He didn't have a violin with him, but what he did have was something he'd taken up 2 years ago, a harmonica. Oh my gosh, he played it absolutely beautifully. And we sat there, as I say, in the fading light. It was he played it quite quietly, and it was just a special evening, and one I think I'm going to remember as long as this trip goes on. This will be a special evening for me, and I totally enjoyed it. So let's listen to what Ken, or Phoenix, had to say. So I'm sitting at Tray Mountain Shelter. There's loads of people. It's like a mini tent city here. Sitting with a young guy. I thought he was a young guy until he told me how old his daughter was.
I'm not young.
I know you're not. Yeah.
I'm 50. I turned 50 last summer.
So tell us, what's your name?
My name's Ken. I'm going by Phoenix on the trail here.
Phoenix on the trail.
And from Williamsburg, Virginia.
So we've been chatting earlier on. As I said, I wish I'd recorded it earlier on as well. You had a bit of an illness some time ago, and you're lucky to be here, aren't you, really, in many ways?
I'm very lucky to be alive, and especially here, yes sir, yeah. September of last year. I woke up one morning, was feeling fine, and within about 10 minutes I started feeling nauseous and dizzy, and well, fast forward 5 days later, I was in the neurosurgery ICU department, and
wow.
getting CAT scans and MRIs and all that good stuff, and they determined that I had a hemorrhage in my brain and my medulla, and it was bleeding into my spinal cord. And
how do you notice it though? How do they know what to look for?
I thought it was COVID. I thought it was something like
really?
that for the first 4 or 5 days. That's why I didn't go to the hospital. But it just progressively got worse. I couldn't even stand up. I was dizzy. I was vomiting. It was way worse than any disease I'd ever had before. And eventually, I couldn't feed myself. So I told my family. They knew it was serious when I said I had to go to the hospital, because I haven't been to the hospital. It's been 10 years since I've seen a doctor. So,
but I was fascinated that this was last September?
This was September 25, yeah.
And I know you've done, I've only done 6 miles today, and I was knackered doing 6 miles, but you've done 16 miles already today.
Yeah. The body's recovering.
So it recovered
fast.
well.
Yeah.
Was it a long process to recover or not?
I couldn't even walk in November, like middle of November. I was taking my first steps on the trail again.
Right.
I probably did about a quarter mile the first time I went out.
Right.
And then I did a half mile and then a mile. And I looked at my family the first day I did a mile and I said, I'm doing the AT in the spring.
That's the spirit.
Well, this way it happened. I looked up at the sky one day and I was like, what do I do to get out of this? Like,
Yeah.
I've never had any kind of physical problems at all in my life. And it
Wow.
was shocking and it was humbling. And the answer that came back is you're going to hike the AT in the spring.
So why the AT?
I live in Virginia, you know, it's close by. I've been
Yeah.
to Shenandoah a few times, and it's just 12 years ago, my daughter graduated high school, and for some reason at that time, I'd never really talked much about the AT, but I gave her a set of hiking poles,
All right.
and I said, one day we're going to do the AT together, you know, just out of nowhere. I tried the Georgia section back in 2006 with a friend of mine from the Air Force, and we made 30 miles and I was wrecked. I was just absolutely.
It's tough, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's not an easy beginning for
No,
anybody.
no,
And I think it's a rude awakening when you get out there anyway to find out that this is a whole lot more difficult than you ever imagined it would be.
It's hard. It's just flat out hard. It's pain and suffering, but I'd say it's the good kind, you know. It's it's like that soreness at the end of the day where you know you did something real, you know, and you wake up in the morning and you feel it and you go, okay, I'm going to push through this. And it's like you get
Did you work out to get here or not?
Yeah, I did. I did some mountain biking and a lot of hiking and progressively loaded up the bag, did some stair stepper exercise, that kind of thing. I actually in January did a 10,000-mile road trip from Virginia down to Florida, up to Colorado, Utah, and then over to San Diego, and then all the way back.
Nice.
And every stop I was hiking and biking anywhere I could. So that was my.
So you feel ready for it?
I don't know, honestly.
One thing that on the podcast over the years, I've asked people, what was their biggest fear before starting? And given the odds are 1 in 5 or 1 in 4 finished,
yeah,
8 out of 10 people said the thought of not finishing.
Really?
How do you feel about that?
I told my wife, still my wife, that it wasn't the finishing that I was concerned about. I want to get to the Georgia-North Carolina line because that's what I failed 20 years ago. If I get there, everything else is a bonus, man.
Really?
Like,
Do you feel that?
Yeah, I do.
Good for you.
I want to finish. I'd love to go stand on the mountain at Katahdin, but for
Let me tell
this
you,
is.
give a clue. It does not suck.
I'm sure it's going to be glorious. You know, every time I watch a video of somebody up there, the tears like just well up in my eyes. Like I feel the emotion through the screen. You know.
And you're doing a video channel as well, aren't you, yourself?
Yeah, I started a YouTube channel. I don't know if I can say the name of it here, but Ken Walker 1111, and you know, I don't have a lot of experience.
Why 1111?
It's a special number. A lot of people have special numbers and that kind of thing. And it's one that every time I see it on the clock, I'm like, I look up and say,
same with me,
thanks.
actually.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. It's like a synchronicity kind of thing. I always think like you're on the right path is kind of the way I look at it. When you see that, it's like, am I doing what I need to be doing? And then you kind of remind yourself like there's more to this lifescape, this reality, this video game than most of us give it credit for. And I think there's interactivity that touches our soul sometimes, and we have to look for those signs. So
I could tell from how the reason I wanted to interview you, because we only met tonight, was that you're outgoing. You want to talk about it. You want to talk about life, and it's there's something pretty special about sitting. We're on top of a mountain.
Yeah.
With tents all around us, people setting up, all happy and enjoying it.
The
and
joy
we're
is
lucky with the weather
the joy
as well.
is contagious on the entire trail. Like I've never been in a place for a week and met as many consistently just happy and content and outgoing and connective people ever. Like that was probably my main goal here, was not the hike. It was like, I want to be around people that this matters to, that this kind of lifestyle matters.
What places are you looking forward to seeing? I mean, you've obviously read about the trail and so on. What things that you're getting excited about?
What am I excited about?
Places. Places.
Along the way, like along the route?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. That's hard to answer. I didn't do a whole lot of research, to be honest with you. Yeah, I didn't.
Well, look, this is not very good on audio, but I'm holding up my food bag. That's me on McAfee Knob.
Nice.
Which is pretty cool.
That's awesome.
That's a picture you must be getting.
I've hiked not far from there, actually.
Right.
I've never actually done the McAfee hike, but the guy I was telling you about that had cancer a couple years ago, his first hike in his life was out not far from there, right where Blue Ridge and Shenandoah meet up.
Right.
And about a year ago, he and I went out and did that hike again.
Nice.
And I took a picture of him up on the bluff, and it looked a lot like that. And after I took the picture and sent it to him, he goes, you know, I appreciate you doing that because that's the picture I'm going to use for my obituary whenever I
Oh
pass
my
away.
gosh.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, really? It was just so touching, but it showed me like there are people that this is the most meaningful thing in their life.
Oh,
Is like,
there's no question about it for a lot
yeah,
of people. Well,
yeah,
I'll say to you is that enjoy it. Don't try to do too much too quickly.
yeah,
As an older guy telling you this,
right.
don't try to do too much too quickly, and just let the trail come to you.
I know you're right.
Because it will come to you, and you look like you're going to embrace it, and you and your
Yeah.
buddy over there, you know, you're
Yeah.
going to embrace it together.
Yeah, that's it. It's the magic of, again, pushing through every day, meeting new people, the smiles, and even if people are hurting, they still bother to introduce themselves and ask
Sure.
your name, and like it's a very unique environment.
It is.
As
It is.
as I do this new form of expression on my video stuff too, that's the main thing I've been kind of reflecting on is you can show the pictures and the videos of the scenery, but it's like I don't get interactions with humans the
That's
way
right.
you do out here.
That's
anywhere
right.
else,
It is
you know?
remarkable.
Yeah.
It is remarkable.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's
Well,
really
I'll tell you,
great.
it's been a pleasure to meet you, and I
Yeah,
hope it
thanks.
goes well for you.
I appreciate it. Same to you.
Okay, buddy.
Fascinating.
Cheers. Day 9, Tray Mountain Shelter to Dix Creek Gap, a 10.9 mile day. Having had such a wonderful evening the previous evening, you know what was going to mess up the whole evening? Oh God. I got into my tent and I'd been using a Thermarest Neo Light, I think it's called, something like that. I've been using it ever since I started hiking, and it's always worked pretty well for me. But I've noticed recently it tends to go down a little bit just over the course of an evening, really. And I sometimes have to inflate it when I get into my bed. And I thought, well, that went down quite a lot this time, and I started worrying about it. I thought, oh my gosh, please don't let this bit have a puncture. But sure enough, about 3/4 of an hour after I'd inflated it, and I couldn't find my inflator, by the way, my flex tail inflator. I had to blow it up by my mouth, which was exhausting, as you can imagine. I had to blow it up again about an hour later by blowing into it as well. Fortunately, later in the evening, I found the inflator, so I made it a little bit easier. But I was having to do this every, I don't know, hour and a bit, just to reinflate the thing. And when it went down quite a bit, I would then fold over the bottom half of the airbed. So I'm on my hips on the airbed, but my legs are on the ground. It was just a very uncomfortable night. And I knew I had to get a new airpad, but fortunately I was coming back to Amanda's on that day, so I could do that. I didn't let it get me down though, because I enjoyed the night so much the previous evening, as I'm sure you could tell. So I would say, despite the airpad, that was definitely my best day in the woods so far. And the profile didn't look too challenging. I must have misread it entirely. Even though there was a 1 mile climb taking us up 800 feet towards the end at Kelly Knob. But basically, I thought it was just gentle ups and gentle downs. But it wasn't. And I kind of struggled through the day a little bit. And I always just want to get to the highest point, and then when you go down into a gap, it's downs, and they're normally quite easy. But frankly, this was such a big down. My legs were quite sore at the end. But halfway through the day, I stopped to refill my water bottle and chatted with a bunch from the Wounded Warriors expedition. These are what they say they are, the Wounded Warriors. They're people who get tremendous support, all their gear. They get stops on trail and dinners on trail, and they stay at people's homes. They're obviously certain military people. And I'd met the first day one of their mentors who actually hiked the trail last year. This year they're taking, They're taking one group of 8 and one group of 10. And their success rate in finishing the trail last year was 14 out of 19 got there, which is absolutely remarkable. And these guys are just really good, fun guys to be around, and they are just living the dream right now, really enjoying it. But where we'd all stopped was to get some water, and it says only a 0.1 climb down to the water. But when I looked at the notes on Far Out, it said it is a long climb and take your poles. It wasn't that long; it was about 0.1, but it was very, very downwards. Which, of course, once you filled up your bottle, means it was very upwards on the way back. So that did slow me down quite a bit. And Amanda wasn't going to be able to pick me up until 4:30 p.m. So I was actually trying to get the shuttle into Hiawassee by 2:30 p.m. That was my hope I'd get there in time. But with about an hour to go, I knew that I wasn't going to make it. So I stopped rushing. And frankly, rushing on a trail is never a great idea. So I don't feel too bad about it. I thought to myself, I've hitched in the past. I'll hitch again. I'll work it out. As I say, the descent was a little bit on the knee crunching side, but I got there. And as I always have so far, I've got there. And at the bottom, a guy came up to me and said, "Are you Journeyman?" I said, "No, but I know Journeyman, and he left earlier than me today." Journeyman's a 73-year-old guy, same as me. Nice fella. He's hiking with a guy called Magellan. I might try to interview them shortly, actually. And this guy was trying to find him. He had a pickup arranged, and Journeyman wasn't there. So I said to him, "Is there any chance you could give us a lift into Hiawassee?" And he said, "Well, I can't really, I'm at the hostel." He said, "But let me go back to speak to the boss." So he went back, and about 5 minutes later, he turned up again and took us all the way into Hiawassee, and Dan was there as well. We both went to the outfitter again. He had to go because he'd been having trouble with his pack, while I was looking for food for what looks like being the next 4 days in the woods, because I'm trying to get to Franklin, North Carolina, and I think it's about 39 or 40 miles before I get there. So I think I can do that in 4 days. I know I've always said don't do more than 8 miles. I'm now up to doing the 10-mile days, but I feel good about it, so I'm okay. So I left Dan was carrying on, by the way. So I left the outfitters and I walked to Hiawassee Brewery, and I met Amanda there for an early dinner and a couple of beers, which was very nice. And you know what, as we left, I said, "By the way, this is my treat. I'm paying for this. So thank you for your hospitality." She just ignored me and took the bill and paid it. Oh dear, she's been terrific. I say, absolutely terrific. So back at her home, we sat and chatted on the veranda before I then got all my. I don't know whether some of you do this. You know these freeze-dried meals. They all appear in a packet. Well, that just is too much bulk to go into my food bag. So Amanda gave me some gallon, what do they call them? Those freezer bags. And because you can pour boiling water into them. So I transferred the contents, the freeze-dried meals, into all these bags. I've got breakfasts and dinners, and I've got some snacks with me as well. And she'd already gone to bed by then. But I did my washing, I had a shower, and I'm also putting out this podcast. I've got to say, Amanda's a listener to the podcast. She's been on the show, and she credits the podcast for getting her hiking. She has gone above and beyond what I ever would have thought anybody would do to help us out. You know, she didn't have to do it. Of course she didn't have to do it, but she did it with a smile on her face. Nothing was too much trouble for her. I cannot thank her enough. And I've already told her that, but she knows it. But I just want you all to know she's been terrific. But that was the end of day number 9, I think. So that's the show for another few days. It's just a 3-day recap and one interview. You know, I really think that the next 4 days are going to set my expectations for this hike. And in fact, in many ways, I think these 4 days are kind of critical for how I react to this hike. We have had absolutely remarkable weather so far, and tomorrow the rain is scheduled to start. It looks like it may rain all the way to Franklin, although we're not quite sure. And I know that 4 days of rain will have a massive impact on my psyche. How I react to it is definitely going to set the tone for the rest of the hike. I'll see you next time.